Texas school decides it's going to shame their white students. What a strategy. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness of back to K-12 classrooms and those pesky college campuses around the world. Today, we start in Dallas, Texas. Boots on the ground, literally, where the state's top school district, top performing school district, is at odds with parents over the adoption of a Cultural Competence Action Plan. This story is right out of liberal Frankenstein week. My God, what happened?
So in the suburb of Dallas, known as South Lake, it was at the Carroll Independent School District, and they are the top achieving school district in all of Texas. And basically, some white kids decided to sing along to some racial slurs in some rap lyrics. And
so white kids emulating and adoring and patronizing black culture, they were singing along to some of their favorite black rap tunes, which included racial slurs.
Say it ain't so.
And I'm sure a good deal of misogyny. And now the white kids are in trouble for trying to emulate their black heroes. That's what the world has come to.
That is correct.
That's correct. Okay.
And even, I mean, what would happen if the white kids would have been singing along to, say, I don't know, Eminem, a white rapper? Because they've tried to cancel Eminem for 30 years at this point. And because, you know, he's not black enough. In the words of Joe Biden, he ain't black enough.
Marshmallow Mathers, he too white. He's the 90s version of Ice Cube, Ice T, Vanilla Ice.
I was like, isn't it interesting how they all, now that we're on a tangent, Ice Cube, Ice T, Vanilla Ice. Ice, baby.
Vanilla Ice.
Yes. So the district adopted a cultural competence plan
to punish those kids.
After the videos went viral, and sometimes crying taxpayers, parents, and students spent hours insisting their lives have been forever damaged by the kind of institutional racism in South Lake, illustrated by the rap sing-alongs. The fact that it's called a rap sing-along is
again, you've got white kids trying to immerse themselves in black culture, which of course is cultural appropriation. I'm pretty sure Snoop Dogg and the boys aren't going to be giving back the white revenue they've earned. Pretty sure that all those rap records sold to pasty white kids in places like Dallas, I'm sure that the rappers aren't apologizing for taking the white man's money. And so how can you then turn around and get angry that the white man is trying to emulate those heroes? But it's a problem now, right? So what happens is that they've created a curriculum to address the fact that white kids so love black culture that it's creepy. And it's black parents who lead the way. And we've got this is a very famous school district, right? Because you've got celebrity kids in this district. In fact, some of the people who are griping the most about white kids singing along to their black heroes are former athletes. Like who?
So retired Dallas Cowboy player Russell Maryland and Robin Cornish, who's the widow of a Cowboy, they both have kids in this district. And they actually, because they could, use the media. Right. And the media used them right back to pressure the town to enact the Cultural Competence Action Plan, the CCAP, or as I know, when I look at CCAP to look up criminals, the CCAP, usually it's a bad acronym, but they used an article on it for NBC News, a long-form article, which basically quotes Cornish as accusing the town of harboring all these racists because these kids decided to sing along to rap lyrics, which all the kids hear.
Right. So Cornish also told the Fourth Worth Star-Telegram that the school district was, quote, sweeping this under the carpet and that they are complicit too. Unfortunately, this is the way our country works right now. South Lake is a microcosm of that. We have someone running the country now. Trump was president.
This was back in 2019,
right?
Yeah.
Who says it's okay to be a racist. Literally this overreaction. Now go back to the one of the first graphs in the article. This school has no racial achievement gaps.
What?
This is stunning. The black and the white and the Hispanic kids in this school all perform at the same level. In other words, this school is actually teaching kids on a level playing field, that the black kids and Hispanic kids are not lagging behind. This is literally a school that has done it right. And because they were singing along, these kids, they didn't write the songs. They didn't create the slurs and the misogynist statements. They are part of Russell, Maryland's community. These are people who Mrs. Cornish and Russell Wilson, this is their people who created these misogynist, anti-police, bigoted rap songs. And so white kids in this district doing their best to sacrifice their whiteness or to put aside their whiteness to participate in what is clearly the superior social culture of African Americans are now getting tagged for doing it. It's just, you can't make this stuff up.
Well, I'm going to ask you I'm going to assume that Juan Salvador, Salvador, is not a white man.
Nope.
Just going to go ahead and ask you on that one. And he said the idea that America is fundamentally flawed because some people have a racist problem in their minds, that's a recipe to keep you in poverty and unhappiness for the rest of your life. Again, this was by a man named Juan. I'm going to go ahead and say he is not white.
Is pretty obviously a Hispanic name.
But
you see, as we saw it a couple days ago, this is another Mexican trying to be white, right? How dare he stick up for white culture?
Well, and he went on to say that my parents always told me it doesn't matter whether people like you, it matters whether the law protects you, and it does. End of sentence. Period.
So you have incredibly wealthy, affluent black success stories in this country who send their kids into the best school district in all of Texas. And they're now whining and petulant like little children because white kids emulate their black muses, right? That they sing along to the culture that you want to espouse. It's just unbelievably hypocritical of you to do this. And again, not a single word of condemnation about the songs themselves. Not a single word of condemnation that these black rappers are exploiting white kids, getting rich off of white kids, and then turning around and the parents turning around and attacking those kids for doing exactly what black culture asked them to do, patronize us.
So I think we officially have the new terms going on around the world. Affinity groups. We've talked about it on the Michigan State or Michigan University was doing these affinity groups. It sounds like it's from Marvel Comics. The Affinity Stones. So affinity groups, it's a new buzzword. It's basically a way for you to be put into little groups based on what your color is, so you feel safe, and then, you could... It's
basically a fancy way of saying discrimination without calling it that. I'm not
affinity.
I'm just hanging out with people I have affinity with.
Affinity.
My skin color affinity is if me and other white people have the same skin color. We're an affinity group. We're not the Ku Klux Klan.
You know what?
We're just a group of people who have the affinity for wearing white hoods. It's not racist at all.
I think we need to start breaking it down by how pasty white you are, because I'll go with the pasty, like the Casper group members, and then other people who actually fake bake can go with other ones.
I'm a little more Italian than rich Corinthian leather. I'm a little bit darker, so I have a little bit more.
You are?
You see, I have the olive skin of my Italian ancestors.
Is it? Wow.
And you find me irresistible with a glass of Chablis.
Okay.
I'll take you to dinner at the finest bodega. And we'll eat in the back room.
Bodega with AOC?
Yes, it's in the back room. We will eat in there with all the other Latin families. It's very romantic.
So at Madison West High School.
Your hand before dinner.
I don't think anyone's signing up for that. At Madison West High School, they wanted to be woke too, and so they have their affinity groups, and they put out an email for all the parents to click on the appropriate Zoom link for your affinity group. Are you going to be the white parents, or are you going to be the parents of color? Of color.
So
POC.
Is this about the Chauvin trial?
Yes.
So what happened was that the Chauvin verdict came in. Hallelujah! They said they decided the guy was guilty. Can you imagine if they didn't? Forget free trials here. Just you got to sacrifice this is maybe we ought to go back to the Polynesian days. Just once a year, take a white police officer to the top of the volcano and push him in, right? And sacrifice him to the bloodlust of all African Americans who believe that every cop is a killer. We should go back and just do that, right? And Chauvin, guilty or not, doesn't matter. He's gone down the hole in the volcano. But what is really troubling about this is that we're going to have two ways of dealing with it. We're going to have it in Wisconsin here. We're going to have a conversation.
Who talks like that? We don't talk like this.
We're going to have a conversation. And what we're going to, this is my Rube voice, my Rube voice. Hey, look, there's a lot of Rubes in Wisconsin. One thing I want to vociferously protest, I've lived in the South. There are just as many rednecks in the North and the South. In fact, I think the rednecks in the North are worse than the ones in the South because they don't realize they're rednecks. They think they're actually dairy farmers. There are a lot of rednecks.
They are dairy farmers. Oh, we're going down a different hole. Now, Wisconsin High School. Let's get back to Madison West High School. Here's the description for the Zoom meeting. Looking back on all of the police brutality and violence that's going on in our country and or communities, and even after the verdict of Derek Chauvin and the murder of another young black female, it's very necessary to have space for our families to discuss and process.
There was not a murder of another young girl. You got two. You got George Floyd and you got the shooting of the girl in Ohio. It's not a murder. It's not even being investigated as a murder. The little black girl was trying to murder another girl and a cop stopped it. That's not murder. This is how out of control this is, right? The incredible number of incidences of police violence. Here's two of them. These two and one doesn't even really count. And the other one, the perpetrator went to jail. And yet, don't you dare say, let's have a call-in line, one for blacks and one for whites, about the incredible amount of black-on-black violence in places like Chicago and Minneapolis. Let's not talk about that.
They want a space for their families to
be able to
process
talk and, of course,
discuss.
Segregated spaces.
And why is it that the high school is taking responsibility of this? Why is it that we have to have?
Why is it their business?
Why do they have anything to do with what families? If families want to talk to one another, and then if families want to go talk to other families, but instead we just say, oh, our public high school should be in charge of organizing our space.
A public school high school teacher to talk about sociology at this level? And the answer is nothing. Absolutely. In fact, as somebody who teaches education majors, I wouldn't go to them with an education question. If I had a serious question about the operation or the philosophy of education, the last person in a university I would go to would be an education person. And that includes education professors.
And according to them, we want to work together to help our students and families feel safe, discuss challenging issues productively, and think about how they can make positive changes in our community.
So again, here's a black Colin, a person of color Colin, and here's a white Colin. So segregation, which is just affinities, right? And what they actually had to back off of, they had apologized for this.
There was a little bit of an apology coming out from Karen Boren, who is the principal, and it was kind of an apology, and she told the Wisconsin State Journal that the email that was sent out, it did not convey our intention in a manner that supports our core values. And she added that the wording in the communication we sent, it kind of lacked clarity. Oh, did it now? That's what happened. Basically, you got caught.
It's called discrimination. I love this part, right? And now the high school posted a response to the George Floyd murder verdict, calling the decision to find former Minneapolis police officer Chauvin guilty on all counts, quote, monumental, as if no cops in the history of cophood have ever paid for what they've done. It's monumental as it represents a shift in how our judicial system responds. No, it doesn't. The system worked like it's always worked. I'm not even completely sure, based on what some of the jurors are telling us now, that this was conducted as a fair trial. Nevertheless, you got your white cop pushed down the volcano. Congratulations at West High School. But again, I would ask myself, and I would ask everybody involved in this story, one question. If you're looking as a mom and dad for advice on how to handle complicated racial issues in this society, do you really think some poorly educated 4-year teacher with a degree in education, do you really think she's the person that's going to have the insights that you need? Or are you going to get this kind of racist drivel from them instead?
So we're going to head just down the road in Wisconsin from Madison to Verona. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump away. Or a tractor ride.
My Verona.
Not even close. And guess what? It's one of those darn it English teachers again. She's basically taught her class that all cops are racist.
Sure,
all.
because that's what you do in English class,
That's
right?
always what we do in English class.
And you know, the thing about English, why I got into became an English, let me be very honest with you.
Let's be honest.
I became an English professor because the purpose of English is to make absolutely one-sided statements without any evidence. It's so liberating not to have to actually do any research. It's so liberating being an English professor because I can say incredibly racist things and they sound perfectly fine and nobody calls me on them. Like this, right? That all cops are killers.
Oh, and also, let's compare them to being slave owners.
Oh,
so
of
cops,
course.
slave owners.
Yeah, of course.
One and the same. A father reported that his son's new teacher, named Valerie Vineyard, devoted an entire class to
that sounds like a porn name right there.
Devoted to the topics of white privilege and police violence. And the conversation stemmed from the Dante Wright shooting, the 20-year-old black man. Yeah. Now, here's what's interesting, is the father is a former cop from the Twin Cities area. So that's where all, the racism happens with the cops and how they're a bunch of, murderers. So anyway, the father said that the teacher devoted another hour and a half class to lecturing the kids to what I believe is her activist views. Here are some terms she used in class, he says. All cops are racist. Cops are like slave owners. If you are black and the police pull you over, you will get shot. The father says she then went on to say how she supports Black Lives Matter and encouraged kids to protest. She made reference to how Trump is racist.
How is there no consequence when you lie to kids, outright lie to them in such serious way? Race is everything to our public schools. Race is all that matters with our teachers and your kids. And that you can go ahead and look kids in the eye and lie so brazenly without content. With any consequence.
Yes, and I love how everything with them is absolutist.
Absolute.
Unless we're talking about gender, then that's
or
fluid,
God,
or that's, all that.
Gender's what we say it is, but race is no more than the color of your skin. It's almost like they've got swatches. How long before they have swatches?
Did you say swastika? How dare you?
No, swatches. Oh. How long before they have swatches from Sherwin-Williams, right?
Was Sherwin-Williams also a racist?
Different shades
of paint colors,
white, down to black, and they'll be marking kids, right? You come between Navajo white and eggshell white, which means you have this much privilege and you're allowed to speak this much. Are we really that far away from swatch culture?
But then you're assigning numbers, which is values, and that's racist as well. Now, all it would take is a little Facebook Google search, which I conducted to find out just how it is that Valerie feels. So now Valerie on her Facebook decided everything that I could see of hers without being her friend is Black Lives Matter. She wrote a post back in February. It says, "Y'all with it yet? Black history is American history. Black history is now. Black Lives Matter. Get loud already. Spread the love and justice already. Enough foolery. Y'all got time. I know y'all got time. And some of y'all certainly got the money. Black friends and loved ones, if you wish, drop your Cash App in my DMs or below. Hashtag Black History Month. Hashtag Black History Every Day. Hashtag Black Lives Matter." Now here's...
How is that not appropriation?
And she's an English teacher.
She's talking like Hillary Clinton in an Alabama church. How is this not a cultural appropriation? That white little Verona Valerie Vineyard, Verona, Wisconsin Valerie Vineyard, is talking all up in your face, black.
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin.
Verona. Yes. So now, of course, the school had to respond.
Yes, of course they did.
Rochelle A. Belly, who is the public information officer
for Verona
Area School District, said, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention earlier today. We are looking into the concerns raised by the parents."
And that's it.
Wow, if that one wasn't pre-written already and used 22 times, I don't even know. So there have been other examples in the Verona district, and I've been there back in the day. Back in my high school days, I went to Verona, and it was fine. Now, cray. They have a banner, or had a banner, in the high school hallway with a timeline and a headline declaring that the United States, 400 years of oppression. In a middle school class, a black teacher made all of the kids stand up and move to one side of the room if they believed in white privilege, and to another side if they didn't. That's what they're doing in the middle schools, too.
Yeah, I'm sure why not?
It makes
Why should
makes perfect
Verona,
sense.
Wisconsin be any less woke than Milwaukee, Wisconsin? And any less educated than Milwaukee kids are, which is to stay at the very bottom of the heap. Instant classics. We got it with François-Marie Arouet, the great Voltaire, and some of his wonderful quotes. This guy, we need a Voltaire. We need an American Voltaire. You think about what sellouts the late night comedians were. There was a time when comedy in America required guts. Think about Lenny Bruce. Think about Richard Pryor. Think about how all sold out they are now. We need a guy like Voltaire, just dropping truth bombs all over these idiots who run our culture and our country right now. Let's go take a look at some more Voltaire, classic Voltaire quote. Every man is guilty. I love this. Every man is guilty of the good he did not do. You are guilty of the good you did not do in your life. It's not good enough to have done no harm. You are guilty for the good you do not do. I love that. How about this? Faith, from a theoretical atheist. Faith consists in believing what reason cannot. And there's a place for it, even in the most skeptical minds. I love that. How about this? Don't think money does everything, or you are going to end up doing everything for money. Hunter, are you listening? How about this one? Every man is a creature of the age in which he lives, and few are able to raise themselves above the ideas of their time. Welcome to every modern politician on the planet. How about this one? It is love, the comfort of the human species, the preserver of the universe, the soul of all sentient beings. Love, tender love. You almost think he's about ready to break up into those opening horns of All You Need Is Love by the Beatles. A couple hundred years before Lennon got his love on.
All right, those are the stories for today. If you have a question for us, please drop it on into the mailbag by emailing askduke@fpeusa.org. And if you enjoy our content, please consider joining the Patriot Club. Your one-time $99 tax-deductible donation allows Duke and me to keep bringing you all these stories every day. Simply visit patriotclub.us to get signed up. That's patriotclub.us. And again, as a thank you, we're going to send you our signature tumbler.
And that's going to do it for this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, finger guns, my friends.